This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. And my guests helping us with this discussion are Professor Baffour Agyeman-Duah, who is former United Nations Senior Governance Advisor. Kofi Bento, Senior Vice President, Imani Africa. Andy Kwame Appiah-Kubi is member, Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament and MP Asante Akim's North. Alexander Segbefia is Director, International Relations, the National Democratic Congress.
Former Minister of State.
Yes, former Minister of State. That's right. Thank you very much. Now, as we move to the next issue, I need to make this, I can call it a rejoinder from the named person involved, that it is not true that there's no paperwork covering what was done. That's all he wants us to know. All right, so let the OSP continue its work and let's see how it goes. Now, let's deal with this briefly, shall we? And as you have followed, there was a certain New Africa Foundation that organized what it called the convention and brought in distinguished Africans from elsewhere to that program. Professor Patrick L.O. Lumumba, Kenyan lawyer and activist, very well known, Pan-Africanist at heart. Peter Obi, Nigerian politician and businessman, the man who caused a lot of trouble for the last election, almost could have won that election at a first attempt with the youth as his backbone. And Dr. Arekana, that's outspoken woman, AU ambassador to the USA. The government cancelled the program at the last minute, issued a statement and said that there was another state program that was supposed to happen that day at the same venue, and they made a mistake in giving it out, and therefore they will refund the money that was paid by Freedom Jacob Caesar. That's the man you know, the man behind the mask. We understand that it's actually 30,000. We have seen receipts of that, and not only 10,000. It's actually 30,000 that the state has to refund. But many are disturbed about the development. First, let's hear what transpired as the security stormed the place and stopped the program from happening.
You sent your men, Dampari. You sent your men, and then you have the voice. Order from above. You know the orders, and you know the powers. This thing is not in the remit. Is it not in the remit of the Constitution? Hasn't it been organized within the remit of the law? So how can you tell us that the power above us is cancelling the program? Who networked power to them? Who gave full power? Article 1 of our Constitution. What does it tell us? It says supremacy resides in not in the hands of the public, not in the hands of government. This is a state apparatus, not a government apparatus.
I've no doubt in my mind that there is a conspiracy of sorts by the elements that it should happen the way it has happened. So this is not an occasion for lamentation. It is an occasion for redoubling our efforts. This is the occasion for which the English word serendipity was created. It is a serendipitous occasion that heralds a great future for the continent of Africa. We are here, therefore, to say that the message will be alive and well.
what I always say is that it is due to one problem, leadership. It is failed leadership over the years that brought Africa where it is. This is not the issue of colonialism. It is the issue I want us to start dealing with our problem.
Educated people who are sitting in the boardrooms and they choose to be mute. And when they are mute while representing us, that means 1.4 billion Africans are mute. It is not the villager who is sitting at the boardroom table. It is the elite, the educated. So my son, what is our education doing to us?
I am a son of this soil, and I can add value to humanity, and I came here to do that. I came here to add value to this world and to nature. I am not going to live here without God even being proud of me. And when I'm not here also, I want you to remember that I came, and I want my absence to be felt. And for that reason, I know you're looking for the man. But the man in the mask is sitting in front of you. I am nothing to be scared of. I came to you as your salvation. I don't invest in myself alone. I am investing in you.
Right. So let's begin with Professor Bafo Adjumandua. What do you say about this? It's become clear that Nana Kwame Bediako, popularly known as Sheda or Freedom Jacob Caesar, the wealthy businessman, intends to, contest elections for the presidency. He's made that clear now. But will that be any basis for which the program or event will be cancelled? Do you know of any other event that replace that day's event?
Well, Samson, this is one of those episodes in our national life where right-thinking people begin to wonder what is really going on. You see, events of this nature, before they schedule it and after they schedule it, and I don't know whether it's the Jubilee House or Ministry of Foreign Affairs, whoever gave the venue, I'm sure there was enough time for national security to do due diligence on the event, the sponsors, and the potential speakers. Every nation has that obligation. So if they did it, it's nothing new. In fact, I'll be surprised if they didn't do it. Then somebody simply slept on his job. So before you grant this, before you authorize the use of such a huge public place, you must have done your due diligence to determine the nature and whether there's inherent threat to state security or whatever. Now that they waited till the very, very last minute, when people have already gathered, speakers have already landed in the country on their way to the Independence Square, then all of a sudden, armed police and soldiers, I understand, cordons the place and say that the place is cancelled. That was a brute use of state power. It shouldn't have happened at all, you see. Because, as I said, if they'd done their due diligence, they would have known what to do prior to the actual event occurring. Also, if you look at the impressive array of speakers, these are the new voices of Africa. And they are talking about Pan-Africanism, a concept that was popularized by our own first president. So they came to pay due respect to a country that used to be the citadel of Pan-Africanism. For some reasons, Ghana, we don't even talk that language anymore.
And the choice of the Black Star Square?
Very symbolic. Very, very symbolic. And these are not ordinary people. Dr. Africana was AU ambassador to the United Nations in New York. And because of his pronouncements, especially on the exploitation of Africa by foreign countries, in this case, the French in particular, how they've exploited their former colonies, continue to exploit. This is what led the AU to withdraw his appointment, because France and other Western countries could not simply accommodate. Pierre Lumumba, he's oftentimes in Ghana. I even thought he had a wife in the country because he's here all the time. He's a Ghana lover. Peter Obi, a new guy on the block in Nigerian politics. What kind of threat would the pronouncements of these individuals pose to the country? Of course, they were going to excite young people. And there's no doubt that young people need new voices because the old voices have become archaic. We don't give any inspiring words anymore. So if these people have emerged to inspire young people, I don't see them threatening. So for me, this was more than embarrassing. It was a scandal because the personalities involved are not ordinary people. And for the government to even issue a statement that it conflicts with another scheduled event. We didn't see any event before, during, and after that particular day. So why would the government lie to these people? You see, there's something in statecraft perhaps I need to mention. A president of a sovereign nation should always be protected from scandals such as this. It's possible that whoever took the decision did so without even resorting or referring to the president or some other authorities. In this case, one would have expected the president himself to make an pronouncement on this, to denounce it if he didn't approve or he didn't know about it, because they have embarrassed him as the head of state. Second, if that were the case that somebody did that, then somebody must take the fall. You take the fall to protect your president. But in our system, in our governance system, you don't get people taking the fall to protect a higher person like the president.
Does it not matter, Prof, that Nana Kwame Bediako was going to take advantage of this mammoth crowd and a decent, stellar group of speakers to announce his bid to, participate in the politics for leadership?
You see, there is something unknown here. Because personally, I believe if these personalities, Lumumba, Arikana, Obi, were to know that this young man was going to use them to launch his political campaign, then I'm sure they wouldn't have come.
PLO has said so.
Well, good, you see, because they wouldn't have come, because that would have been tantamount to interfering in the political affairs of the country. Foreigners don't come and crowd around an individual who is seeking political power in a country. And these are very smart individuals, PLO, Arikana, Obi, these are very smart individuals. So I don't know whether I should say they were tricked to come or they're not giving the true story of what was going to happen. I don't know.
How exactly would they mounting a platform of a foundation belonging to someone who is interested in the politics amount to interfering in our politics?
You see, if you're an international figure, as these individuals are, and they are seeking Pan-Africanism, you do not want to antagonize any particular country, especially a country like Ghana, that has a history that we're talking about. You see, if you stand behind somebody, even look, in ordinary election, have you heard of any African leader going to another country to support a candidate? We don't do that. Courtesy doesn't require it. So I believe strongly, and if Lumumba has said it, then I believe it. Because if he knew that they were going to be used to launch a political party or a political candidate, I'm sure they would have declined. But you see, the whole thing, first of all, I understand the permission was for a black festival, not a convention. There is a certain cloud over this. And it's unfortunate because the essence of the meeting for these prominent Africans to bring their voices together, to excite the youth. From Ghana, they said they were going to other African countries. That would have been excellent. So this whole situation If I have a way of investigating to know the motive for bringing them, I think it would be interesting to know. But nonetheless, the idea of government stepping in at the last minute when people have legitimately secured a public place and there's no indication of violence or threat or anything of the sort, and cutting it off, that for me was scandalous.
Okay. You definitely want to hear the president say something about this. Now, Kofi Bento, if it were that this is a clear interference in our politics, which is not allowed, the reason given formally, officially by the state does not include that. It simply says they made an oversight. We gave it to you, but there is another state program at the same place at the same time, and that should take precedence over yours, which we had approved and taking 30,000 for.
Samson, see, we are giving this thing way too much importance. I don't think it merits that. Every event in any country has its footprint. It has what, its significance is and what it's likely to cause or what, its importance is. And as far as I am concerned, I disagree with Prof. The president should not go anywhere near this. This is somebody arranging a meeting and then somebody deciding that they are going to cancel the meeting for very bad, wrong reasons.
Somebody from where? From the presidency. Somebody from where? The presidency.
Yes. And, I don't think we should spend too much time on that, but that is what should be investigated. That things emanate from the presidency. And like what Prof is saying, some of us wonder whether indeed those things have the proper authority. Our presidency sometimes seems to issue things and you don't know who is signing what. And that for me is more, worrying than the event itself. Look, all respect to the young man, he's done quite a bit, but this is a flamboyant young man we all know who is given to bombastic exhibitionism, okay? Sometimes you find him taking pictures clothed from head to toe in designer leather wear, which is colored the same way as his vehicles. This is a gentleman who has tigers, This is a very flamboyant guy. Even his political campaign involved voodoo masks, hidden strategies, invitation of people who were not exactly told what they were going to do. I mean, there is a style about this young man. And look, after all the tension and everything that we go through in this country, a bit of drama is useful, even in, presidential, politics. He says he's our salvation and he's here to save us. Let's take it as it is. He's wearing a voodoo mask, but he says we should not be afraid of him. Let's take it like that. He's going to inject some kind of, levity into the political campaign. What we should not do is to deploy serious state resources to try and, cancel his event or whatever it is. The cancellation is more news than the event. All right. And I think we should be sparing in the use of state resources. All right. The young men who were agitated were right. They have a right to that space. It is public space. If he wants to bring, look, Julius Malema and all this, these speakers are known. We all love them for what they represent and what they say. If for nothing at all, put them there, let them speak and let them excite the youth. If you are somebody who's afraid of these people, you are the wrong person. So look, my view of this thing is that the cancellation was totally unnecessary. They should have let the young man do his thing. In the scheme of things politically and nationally, I really do not think that this rises to the kind of event that requires presidential intervention. Okay, this is a young man who is injecting some sort of, a different dimension into our politics. Just let him roll. The election will come on and we'll know everybody's smoothness level.
Professor Kweku Azan says the Black Star Square is a public square. It is the consummate forum for public deliberation and civic participation. It's the quintessential marketplace of ideas. While it is necessarily managed by the government, we must be skeptical of any governmental restrictions that attack freedom of expression. Event organizers need not specify in advance the issues that they are going to talk about, nor do they need the approval of government on what they talk about. Such prior restraints are irredeemably unconstitutional. He says, whatever these Pan-Africanists had to say may not be of interest to some of us, but they had the right to use the public square and to express their views there. The cancellation was just unconstitutional. The reason given for it was an outright embarrassment. Yes.
Let me start from your last statement. Honestly, I also believe that the reason given for the cancellation was total embarrassment. And I'm sure that they themselves gave the reason where that was not correct. Nevertheless, I am also disappointed at the intelligence gathering that went on before the announced event. In fact, although state security may have picked certain negative vibes just before the commencement of the event, I would have thought that it should have been done long before. I mean, as Prof was talking about diligence in national security investigation, national security matters, I side with Prof in saying that we were not that diligent in mobilizing the necessary information, security information for the decision to be taken, albeit that the decision was taken before the information was available to national security apparatus.
The fact is that we are not being told that it was cancelled for security reasons.
Well, you see, me and you, Samson, that reason given that the place had already been allotted for another event, it cannot hold water because, as Prof said, nothing happened before, during, and after the event. So it couldn't have been the case that there was a pre-programmed event before this one. So let's not even go there. We can't. That's why I condemn the reasoning behind it. Nevertheless, whoever has a right has also a commensurate responsibility. And therefore, the Constitution will not give rights alone and not also attach it to commensurate responsibility. So whoever is pointing to a right must be careful that that right also procures a responsibility. So we cannot take the right and leave the responsibility. And so also, the national security has a right to ensure there is peace, stability, cohesion, national progress, and the like. They have a responsibility also to ensure that. So that's why I fault them for not having given prior notice of this happening.
The way to secure peace, stability, and national security is to scuttle a program where people are invited to. You don't attend without invitation, actually.
Understand the reasoning, the motives, and the effects, and the consequential and tangential impact on national security. It's always important for the national security to be abreast with time and give a briefing to the presidency. So if that didn't happen and presidency thought that it was just a Pan-Africanist meeting, then that was wrong. And I would blame the security apparatus for not having identified that motive earlier. And if I listen to Professor
Professor
Lumumba,
yeah,
he said, "I am so disappointed. I was tricked into coming because if I knew, then that is where they wanted.
If I knew that
this was
he has political ambitions,
yes, because.
But as for the reason, they were told." And if you look at even the invitation card that was sent to people, the invitation cards were non-transferable, and the invitation said that you are invited to attend the convention, a platform where true African voices come live to inspire hope, change, and independence.
I don't have any problem with that, and even I will encourage the Minister for Foreign Affairs to bring such assembly of eloquent, speakers on Africanism to Africa, because the concept of Africanism must be managed carefully so that we have a sustainable education on Pan-Africanism going forward. So I will encourage our minister to bring them back, probably in a different program, for them to continue to, elogize trade barriers and also people in Africa, leaders who are performing. So it was not going to be, in fact, I had prepared to go. I was going to be part of the audience because I wanted to listen to, particularly Madame Arikana. She's my hero. I was so disappointed when African Union rather brought her back from her position as representative of Africa in the United Nations. I was so disappointed. Somebody who was opening the cans for the worms to come out, you rather disappoint her. So I was very much ready to listen to her, and I would have thought that if they had brought them into a more refined arena for us to be able to listen, because where we are going...
A more refined arena?
For listening purposes.
Okay, so in fact, I need to place this on record. The comments that have been attributed to PLO Lumumba, that he said, quote, "If I knew the real intention of the convention, I wouldn't have come. I was misled by the New Africa Foundation." I'm reliably informed that he never made those comments. It's only fake on social media and being circulated around as something he said, but he never said it.
I would think that Prof, if he didn't say that, and this is being attributed to him, he has enough power and will to be able to articulate his right position. Right. Because I'm relying on it in my argument.
Yeah.
Maybe
we have all relied on it.
Maybe unfairly though. But again, if you look at sovereignty, issues of sovereignty, issues of diplomacy, issues of political courtesy, it was not right for political actors of that status to just descend on Ghana to promote a single person's political agenda. It wouldn't be right, because you will be undermining the diplomatic relations between countries. You will be undermining...
So the real thing was this.
Yes.
Already there's fear. Alan Chamanting is taking away a huge chunk, some significant number of MPP people.
That's internal politics.
Freedom Jacob Caesar, if he also comes on the scene, is likely to make it difficult.
If he wants to contest as a
this was a fear.
Candidate, no. How would that be a fear? If I want to contest as a presidential candidate, I have to be honest enough to myself and to a nation and declare that stand. But to hide behind a cloak of international speakers saying that they are coming to preach Africanism, if you want to rely on Africanism in your political...
Why is that hiding? Why is that hiding? That I want to be a presidential candidate,
at the time,
but I am someone who is preaching Africanism. Therefore, I want to have significant Africans come to the country and speak on that subject, not on my campaign. Okay, what's wrong with that? What's that hiding?
If he had indicated that I am going to be a presidential candidate, I want to be, and I want to rely on Pan-Africanism. I want to host a program on Pan-Africanism. That would have been fair for all of us.
All right.
To give the necessary intent and warning. Then, if he indicated that to Prof. Lumumba, and Prof. Lumumba accepted to come, or Madame Arikana, and she accepted to come, then we will have issues of diplomacy, issues of sovereignty, issues of political courtesy to deal with them. And they would also have opportunity of considering whether it was right for them to come here to collectively promote the agenda of a possible presidential candidate. I'm sure they would not do it. So the fact that we were not aware of the intentions behind the assembly, that made some of us very suspicious. But again, I think that Pan-Africanism is still relevant now as it was in times past. And therefore, any opportunity for the students of today to learn about Pan-Africanism will be welcome. And I encourage even the government to continue to pursue that line of action. But I also encourage this young man who wants to become president. Let us not take it that he cannot be and therefore will not allow. Let him be that open and transparent and declare his interest and come in and throw his heart and contest it. I mean, for nothing at all, he'll be part of history. So for me, what happened, what the state agency did, for me, was nothing wrong. Ensuring state security, ensuring that there was nothing beyond the event. But what I'm saying is that they did not act timeously, and I'm very worried about that.
Okay.
And they should have acted well.
All right.
Alex,
what do you have to say? And again, people have found it interesting that he brought the delegation to meet with President Mahama.
Oh, Mahama is a Ghanaian. So if somebody comes and he's a former president.
Yeah, so it's Alex I'm asking now.
No, somebody comes to meet with him, there's nothing wrong.
All right.
Thank you so much. I want to take some of the bits from both Professor Bafo Ajiman, Kofi Bentil, and obviously my colleague. This has been a mammoth failure of the security agents with regard to due diligence. And the way they solved it is the problem. Has now become a problem in itself. Assuming there was a problem in the first place.
Yes, you all keep referring to security issue. What's the security issue?
This is the point. That's why I say, assuming there was a problem in the first place. But if you have someone who has been advertising around billboards with a mask, with all kinds of statements going with it, national security should have been very interested. Who is behind the mask even before the mask was removed? And if you know this, and that person then says, I'm organizing a conference under, not under my name, but under an organization, and I'm inviting A, B, or C, the first question that should have been asked, are you speaking? And in what capacity will you be speaking? That is, for me, simple, basic. And when you find out, even if he tells you mistruths, and you want to then close down a function of this, you tell all of us why. Let us be upset, but at least we have the genuine reason. But when you don't tell us why, or you actually lie to us, or tell us, give us a reason that doesn't make sense yesterday, today, or even tomorrow, you set yourself up for ridicule. And it is worse when it comes from a government that is not known historically for its Pan-Africanist position. MPP is seen in some circles as anti-Nkrumah. That's how they are seen. They can give various examples of how they've done the renovation of the Nkrumah Museum, all kinds of things. But they are seen as anti-Pan-Africanism, principally because of them fighting Nkrumah when he wanted independence for Ghana, and even sending a delegation abroad to say that we were not ready for independence. So that stigma or that tag rests with them, and it has a historical context. So when you want to stop people who are seen as the forefront runners of Pan-Africanism today, in a world where the youth are looking for some difference in our body politic or in our thought processes, gravitating towards the Pan-Africanist position, you have to wait. And politically, the government of Nana Addo has shot itself in the foot. Because this thing has gone viral worldwide, in terms of what has happened. And all kinds of reasonings are being given for this action. Sometimes you get yourself in a rut and you have to decide which is the lesser of two evils. We didn't do our due diligence properly. We didn't see this coming. How do we mitigate it? Did they call?
I'm still asking the question. Due diligence about what?
About the fact that
you have a partisan political interest.
Yes.
Therefore, you are precluded from having a foundation that can host Africans to speak about Africa?
No, but in fairness, notwithstanding whether the statement, and I don't believe the statement, I've listened to what Lumumba's PLO said, at least in his speech, and he didn't make reference to that. So unless they are attributing the speech to him somewhere else, I go with the fact that I have not heard it anywhere apart from social media.
That's right.
And social media is not going to be the basis for which I will take it that he ever said that statement. But for me, at least there is a need for a transparency as to what, in effect, if they have been used, the security is entitled to know. They are not entitled to stop it, but we are entitled to know.
Please, if any one of you watching or listening is aware of a state event that replaced that event, please share the message with us.
Yes.
Yeah, information with us.
So for me, they are entitled to know because I am hoping that it's not true.
The same venue.
Yes, that's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the official statement said. There was going to be a state event at that same venue.
Your invitation was for somebody to tell you of any state event during the time, not at the place.
No, at the same venue.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah.
So for me, I'm clear that there would have been some concern as to if you are going to launch your political career. One, at least national security should have been aware. And two, all the speakers should have been known this is what we are being asked to come and do. None of the speakers was going to talk about his political career. I doubt. They would have talked about Pan-Africanism. The only person you could have said may have been a bit political may have been Peter Obi, because he's a politician in that regard. But he wasn't coming, as far as I know, and having listened to him, that he was coming. Julius Malema was never in town, so he didn't even attend. So, if talking about shooting oneself in the foot, this is an own goal by the security agents and the government of Nana Addo.
Interesting.
And with their with the history they have, they should not have cancelled. And even if it is true, all the things we are saying are true, I go with your initial question. Actually, when you look at freedom of speech and the way somebody wants to launch his political career, let the speakers take him on and be upset after the event.
Yeah, but
you understand? But if he has gone through all the procedures and nobody would necessarily ask some of these speakers to give their speech in advance, how would they know what Cheddar was going to say?
So one of the significant persons who was also invited formally to this program, a statesman, says that they encouraged him to. He says that this is the clarity he brings. National security knew ahead of the event the man behind the mask, and that no state event took place as was alleged that there was a state event that was supposed to take place. No state event took place. Franklin Kujo, president of Imani Africa, says the president, in his Constitution Day speech, promised to uphold individual liberties and guarantee freedom of assembly and association. Less than 5 hours after his speech, his office strangely torpedoed a licensed public event a group of law-abiding citizens had put together, leaving thousands stranded as heavily armed security forces barred entry to the event. Martin Pebu, who is a private legal practitioner, says everybody involved should be held responsible because this is the breach of the organizers' Article 21 right. Article 21 of the Constitution guarantees freedom of speech, including freedom of assembly. So once the place is booked, you can't cancel it at that last hour. It was just too late to cancel it. Let's now also share some other views being sent in on this particular topic. Vine Maxwell says, the irresponsible cancellation of Pan-African Convention by MPP-led government is an act of cowardice, and this government is trying everything to silence divergent views of the people using brute force and state power. Kobe Jones says, Bento does not see flamboyance in those wasting our public purse, but a private guy using his own resources to market himself. Theophilus Amasa It says Shedder must do his things with clarity, truth and integrity, and consciousness. It was wrong to appoint a complete foreigner as a spokesperson. Ghana is a nation of many jokers. Okay, so he's referring to the spokesperson for the new force who was arrested and subsequently deported by the states. Samson says, but which state event was scheduled for the Black Star Square? And the managers of the venue or state protocol didn't know this ahead of time? Let's end this embarrassment and joke as a country. Then this one from Mark in the USA says, foreigners are not allowed to partake in our politics. Well, they pay for your elections. Until recently, that they decided not to pay for your elections. They pay for you to organize the election. The invitation of the 4 Pan-Africanists for Nana Kwame Bediako to launch his political career was wrong. That aside, state security should be blamed for not revealing the man behind the mask. Even me, living in the US, had intel that the man behind the mask was Freedom Jacob Caesar. Kandapa. All right, thanks for that. And then, okay. Someone is asking, can't Bediako simply sue? Is there truly a chief of staff at the presidency? That's many of the questions coming in. I'll take just about 2 more and then we hear Professor Ajmandia briefly because she has to make an input. It says, what is this talk about hiding? Is partisan politics not about hiding behind something, for example, giving money to the electorate to influence them by hiding behind the reason of TNT? In any event, the reference persons are available to anybody to invite for a forum. We should rather not hide behind things. Good morning. That's from Ken. Pan-African, as pursued by Nkrumah, selected like-minded individuals and helped their political cause to enhance the Pan-African story. That's from Ernest. All right, thanks for all of those messages. Prof, very quick comments before we close the chapter on this subject.
Well, I think in reference to my good friend Kofi's points about the event, it's important to know that young people are yearning for something different. In Ghana in particular, Africa too. And we should just find a way to encourage young people to come forward. The political systems in African countries, as you well know, most of the countries, are not supportive of progress. Look, this conversation, we're not getting into the character of the individual involved. That's why I didn't go there. I'm personally disturbed by certain pronouncements of Bediako and how he presents himself and all that. But the idea is refreshing. In fact, I listened to his interview, I think on Joy Showtime, a morning show or something like that. He's the first candidate who's talking about what? The over-centralization of development in Accra and Tema, that we need to have different development poles in the country. That was important. That was refreshing. So anyway, all I'm saying is that for whatever it is, we need new ideas. We need fresh blood in our political system because the current crop of politicians, the professional politicians we have, are not helping us.
All right. Kweku Enchibwe is asking, was Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's Pan-Africanist agenda and activism not about, partly, you can say, his personal political ambition in Ghana? Right. Thanks for all of your messages. They lied using state apparatus and authority, yet no heads are likely to roll. The presidency lacks credibility. And this is from Notte. We take a break. We'll be right back